All right, we are playing a little bit of catch up right now with Linda Stermer. This is day number 4. I think we've watched 2 of them. I think we're missing day 3. So I may even go back and do that. But I thought it'd be good to watch something before Monica's trial. And then I found somebody going into sentencing. And so I went on there. The volume was so low that it almost was like, oh, is something wrong with, my audio, my mic audio or theirs. They didn't have any mics in the courtroom. Anybody who's on the stand that talked didn't have a mic. Defense prosecutor asking him questions from a podium, no microphone. So unless you had your volume all the way up, and even then, I had mine all the way up and I could not hear anything. So frustrating. I left a little bit early because of that, because I didn't want to have to sit there. But it will be good because later I can skip ahead of some of these boring parts and actually get to the sentencing. All right, I'm going to go ahead and minimize myself. 2 hours till Monica's trial's back on. Everybody better give closing arguments for Monica next. No more wasting days. Okay.
You can't find the classification of the fire, fair? You can't tell what happened. You said the origin is the where, correct?
Correct.
And the cause is the why.
Correct.
And if you don't have the why, you can't say a crime occurred, fair?
I don't make the determination if a crime has occurred.
If arson, I'm just talking about arson.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. I think we're asking for legal conclusions at this point in time. Prosecutor's office could charge a crime based on an undetermined fire. He's already testified to it, so I think we got to ask an answer. But also we're asking for legal conclusions.
The question is simply, if you don't have the cause, the why, you can't even classify the fire.
That question's fine.
You can't even classify the fire because you can't tell why it happened, right?
Well, the classification you just said was undetermined.
You can't tell why a fire happened. You can't classify it, right?
Objection as an answer.
Yeah, I didn't get an answer for him.
Yeah, all allowed. I
Yes
just
or no?
have the answer.
If I can't tell the why, then it
Yeah.
would be classified as an undetermined fire.
Okay. Let's talk about this excavation you said that you did, all right? On January 8th.
Yes.
On January 8th, you did an excavation, and as we know, the living room was the area of origin, correct?
Correct.
I'm going to show you, we've already admitted this as Exhibit O, floor plan of the living room. You've seen this before, right?
I have not.
Does that represent to you what the floor plan of the house looked like?
Yes.
Okay. And you know that the living room, as you said, was the area of origin of the fire, right?
Correct.
And you excavated that to get important data.
I excavated the basement that was below the living room.
The living room you showed us on that aerial photo had collapsed into the basement.
Correct.
So anything regarding the living room would have been in the basement.
Correct.
And you've testified that that was 2 feet of rubble, correct?
I didn't say 2 feet of rubble.
Okay, let's look. If I may approach, Your Honor? Thank you. I've got your prior testimony.
Why don't we look at the part that says Dalbear 1?
Okay.
The question's being asked, is he asking about 2 feet of rubble today or now the previous hearing? I think is what we're calling it. I think it's confusing question.
You have testified that the area,
If you could just clarify what he's saying now, and assistant or?
You're telling us you don't know how deep the rubble was in the basement that you excavated?
No, you asked me if I testified to 2 feet of rubble. And I-
Do you admit there's 2 feet of rubble in the basement?
Approximately 2 feet of rubble. That's an approximation. I never measured it.
Could be 3.
I never measured it.
If there's 2 feet of rubble, and we know from the living room that it's 18 by 18, see that?
Yes.
Yes?
18 to 118.
18 feet. This is 18 feet.
Okay.
And there's a little bit more. You have to have the area too, right?
Yes.
Do you know how to do that? Calculate that area?
Yes.
Sines, cosines, tangents, Pythagorean theorem?
I'm aware of how to do area.
Can we agree like we had before that it's about the total 20 by 20, roughly?
I'm just looking at the 118, and there's no 18, but that's, 18, yes, that's 18 by 18 with a little bit left. I didn't see the 18 at the bottom.
You say roughly 20 by 20?
Yes.
Okay. Now, that's the area of origin, correct?
Yes.
And if we took about a 20 by 20, if we measure from you roughly about to that first row, about 20 feet?
I don't know how far that is. 20, the first row? It's a little further than that. But you have a measuring tape.
Would you like to hold the one and we'll measure it? Thank you. If I may.
Oops, sorry. I actually didn't mean to do that.
That's the dummy end.
Okay? Yep.
Thank you. I'll go. From the jury box to about here.
Approximately.
So we have an area of origin in the living room of this whole area here, correct?
Correct.
And you can't narrow it down where the fire started amongst any of the.
I cannot.
Could have started over in this area over here, right? Could have started by the fireplace,
Not against the fireplace.
but anywhere in here, you don't know.
Correct.
But you dug out the rubble, right?
Yes.
In this 18 by 20 by 20 spot. Right?
Yes.
2 feet of rubble, correct?
Approximately.
And you had a person with you, Greg Stormzan from Michigan State Police,
Yes.
and you deposited the rubble, as I believe, on the west side and the back side of the house, correct?
I would have. Yes.
Well, you did, correct?
Yes.
Put it on the west side of the house,
Yes.
and you cleared the basement, 'cause that's how you do it, right?
I
Yeah.
not the entire basement, just the area underneath the living room.
So there would be basically a clear area of 18 by 18 in that house if somebody came after you, correct?
Yes.
You made this rubble pile, and this rubble pile should be, well, if we say 20 by 20 by 2, that's 800 cubic feet, right?
I don't know how much the rubble pile would have been.
Well, you didn't do 800 cubic feet of excavation and put that outside, did you?
I have no idea.
Did you create a rubble pile of approximately 4 feet by 8 feet and 7 feet high?
It was not a 7-foot high pile.
Let's go to your testimony at that Dalbert hearing on 162, lines 7 to 11.
First page, yes. Goblet one, yes.
So this prior hearing on page 162 at line 7, you with me?
One 62, line, what line?
Line 7.
Line 7.
You had been asked, so outside the house was the area that you laid all the debris, correct?
Yes,
Your answer. Again, we didn't lay it out, so it was placed in a pile. The pile, in my recollection, would probably have been 3 or 4 feet by 6 or 8 feet and 7 feet high. But I don't have a great recollection of the size of the pile after we excavated, right?
correct.
So if somebody came after you, were there on the 8th, like somebody on the 15th, a week later, we should see behind the house a picture of a 4-foot by 8-foot by 7-foot high pile of rubble.
I have no idea what the rubble pile would look like after I left.
Well, do you think somebody would have taken it and moved it?
No, but it's possible.
Do you think somebody would have put it back in the house?
I have no idea.
The pile. The rubble that you would have been removing, and I'm gonna show you exhibit, defendant's exhibit B. Can you look at your photos? Select photos? One I gave you yesterday, counsel?
No, I understand that, are they just,
They are select photos, not every photo.
you mean, I respect that, and I understand, are they separated from a giant exhibit of other photographs, or are they just?
They are in exhibit B by themselves. You tell me if those are your photos.
So you want him to review the entire binder right now?
No,
Oh,
it's just
okay.
15 photos.
Which 15 now?
Well, I'm not sure. Is this exhibit B? I will, let's,
You know which ones to look at?
yes.
Okay.
These are the photos look like that have been previously entered into evidence by the prosecution.
Some are the same, some are different.
Looks like 47 under B is the same as defense 34-9. But this one's very dark. Okay. Would you like me to keep continuing? Would you like me to continue to be on photos?
Please. All those photos you identified to the prosecutor, you had reviewed your photos before this trial, right?
Yes,
And you identified those easily as your photos, right?
correct,
And a lot of these are just duplicates of your photos.
but I'm going to make sure.
To determine that.
'56 is the same photo as 3411 with the prosecution. '57 is one of my photos, but not with the prosecution exhibits. '58 is one of my photos. It's in the prosecution exhibit 3412. '59 is my photo that is the same as people's 3410. 21 looks to be the same as People's 3418. '62 is one of my photos that is not in the People's exhibit. '75 is the same as People's 3425. '96 is one of my photos and is similar to People's 3413. I think this might be a different photo of the same shot. '123 is the same as People's 3421. '138 is one of my photos, but not in the prosecution photos.
Hmm.
And that finishes up the
That's all. Move for the admission of Exhibit B, 1 through 15.
What'd you say, 15?
15.
1 through 15.
Thank you. So if we look at page, photograph 62 there. You can look up on the screen if you like. We can see. Good. We can see that fireplace in the basement, right?
yes.
Right here. So basically what we're showing is the living room area, and the living room extends out toward the bay window to the left.
No, this photo's taken from underneath the window.
Okay. You're saying the fireplace is directly across from the bay window, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, we have the FP on
So
the drawing.
what I'm seeing then is entirely the living room.
Yes.
Now,
Or the basement under the living room.
the living room that had collapsed and had the 2 feet of rubble that you excavated and cleared, you and Mr. Stormvan.
Yes.
So, if somebody like Mr. Shinsky came, and Mr. Shinsky took a photo a few days later, what we should see is photo of the back of the house where you laid it out, right? Am I correct?
Yes.
And what we should see somewhere in here, in the back west side, is a pile 7 feet by 8 feet by 7 feet high, correct?
I did not see that there.
You certainly don't. You also didn't document the excavation, did you?
I did not take a photograph of the excavation once completed. That is a mistake that I have admitted to, and it's a mistake on my part.
You know the importance of documentation, correct?
Correct.
Important for corroboration, correct?
Okay, so
Okay.
It's important for corroboration, correct?
it is important to document the scene.
Because you want to have corroboration in case somebody asks you, did you actually do some excavation? You want to be able to show proof.
Correct.
That's called corroboration. True?
That's, you can call it that.
You didn't take any photographs, right,
What do you mean, didn't take any
of the
photographs?
excavation.
Yes,
You didn't write in your report, your official Michigan State Police report, anything about an excavation, correct?
I think there may have been a section, but without reviewing my report, I can't be sure.
Well, did you testify in a hearing that you didn't document it in your report?
I may have.
And if you testified in that hearing, that would have been under oath,
Correct.
and you would review your file,
Correct.
and you reviewed your report,
Correct.
and you told us the truth when you told us you didn't put it in your report.
Correct.
You also didn't even take any notes during your whole scene inspection, did you?
What is your definition of notes?
Well, things like the jury is taking down, to document you did what you did.
When
Did you take any notes, yes or no?
I dictated the scene examination directly into the report on recording. For years, I've been doing this 20 years, I typically don't take copious written notes on scene examination.
We don't have anything contemporaneous in terms of any notes of yours of the excavation itself, fair?
There are no notes of the excavation.
Even though that's such a critical aspect of fire investigation.
The notes aren't critical, it's the information in the report that's critical.
The excavation is critical in a fire excavation. True?
You say an excavation is important in excavation?
The excavation process in a fire investigation is critical, am I right?
Yes.
Because that's where you get the evidence that might show how the fire progressed.
That is a step that may develop evidence.
And that is a step where you collect data, it's called.
Yes.
And that data will help you find evidence that might point to the why, the cause.
Possibly.
You can't overlook doing an excavation when you're doing a fire investigation, right?
Depends on the fire investigation.
You testified that, correct me if I'm wrong, that the reason you didn't take any photographs, make any notes, is because it was a long day that day.
I never said anything about notes. I did testify that there's no photographs that should have been taken. I don't know why I didn't take it. It's possible it was a long day, and because we didn't find anything of notable significance in the excavation, that it's possible I forgot to take the photograph.
Well,
Photographs of post excavation.
let me see if you turn to D2 there.
We're talking transcripts again?
Your book of the transcripts.
D2. What is that?
Last one. Last tab.
So when you say D, you're referring to daughter, correct?
You can read from page 42 to yourself, line 13 to 16.
And I'm sorry to hear the expression read out loud, or,
To yourself.
okay. 42 to what lines?
Line 13 to 16.
Yes.
Okay. Does that refresh your memory that the reason you forgot to take a photograph or note your documentation was because it was a long day?
It does. Possible long day.
You were tired
Yes.
after a long day.
Yes.
So you didn't document this critical aspect because you were tired because it was a long day.
Question asked and answered, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Let me ask you something. You've trained fire investigators, right?
I have.
Okay. If you had a rookie fire investigator you were training, would you accept such a poor excuse as, boss, I didn't do what I was supposed to do and take any pictures and notes because it was a long day. I was tired.
What do you mean accept it? Of course I would. Because if that's what happened, you're going to accept it.
Wouldn't you maybe ask that person, why didn't you go back the next day?
We're calling for speculation, Your Honor. Objection.
This is thank you. You would ask
I don't
that.
know what I would say, because it depends on the scene. Everything depends on the scene.
If he says that I didn't do it because it was a long day and I was tired, and he's a rookie investigator,
I'm going to object, asked and answered, Your Honor.
you would ask him, why didn't you go back the next day?
Well, I'll allow this one.
Thank you. True?
I don't know what I would say.
Okay. Is there a law that says you can only go and do a scene investigation one day?
No,
Is there any Michigan State Police policy that says you can do a scene investigation only once?
no,
Okay. And after you were the law enforcement person responsible for the scene in terms of the fire investigation, right?
in terms of the fire investigation.
So after January 8th, you didn't come back anymore.
I did not.
And you released the scene to people like Mr. Shinsky, right?
Correct?
And Len McHugh, do you know him?
Yes,
He was on the scene a couple days after you,
yes.
right? Now, I want to talk a little bit about your origin and the bases for your origin opinion. You went through a whole lot of things about how you ruled out various areas in the house, right?
Correct.
And if we look at the New York skyline, let me get back on here. If we look at your investigation, I'll get it back in a second. You did the physical investigation, all the physical evidence led you to the area of origin in the living room, correct?
All the data.
All the data. All the data, including what you said was very important information from Linda Stermer, correct?
Correct.
Linda Stermer told you that she was in the basement, am I right?
I've never talked to Linda Stermer.
You read a statement that Mr. Shinsky took an interview,
Yes,
but you relied on it, obviously.
yes,
And she said she's in the basement doing laundry. Yes.
Correct.
She hears this horrible scream upstairs, right?
correct,
She runs upstairs.
correct,
She sees the living room on fire.
correct,
She sees her husband on fire by the bedroom, you said, right?
correct.
Okay. Have you ever burned yourself on a stove or anything in your life?
Yes,
Okay. That pain is immediate, isn't it?
yes.
That
But I'm not a
pain-
medical expert. I can't testify to that.
You certainly can testify to your own experience that the pain was immediate to you, right?
Yes,
I'm not trying to be funny with you. Are we clear?
yes,
Sir,
sir.
I'm going to object. I don't think that's appropriate.
I'm not
He's-
clear what
he's-
that last dialogue was
He's
about.
smirking
Okay,
at
well,
me.
you're being argumentative, so move
So-
on, please.
You've had burns, and they were immediate, correct?
Correct,
And they were painful, correct?
correct,
So, one of the things that NFPA cautioned you is if you have a hypothesis that violates the laws of physics, that's an invalid hypothesis, right?
I'm not aware of that section, but proceed.
Okay. One of the rules of physics, we talked about Newton's laws of motion
Yes,
I
before.
don't object, Your Honor. I think we're getting into areas that's not proper for trial at this point in time. It's laws of motion, this is physics, he's not a physics professor.
He's familiar with it, and we agreed.
I'll allow some.
Thank you.
But I assume
Sir.
there's some relevance where you're going.
One fundamental law is you can't be in two places at the same time, can you?
correct,
So, if Linda Stermer is in the basement and she hears a scream and that burn injury is immediate, that means Todd Stermer caught fire and Linda was in a different room, correct?
correct.
Now, Let's talk about some of the fundamentals of being an expert witness. One of the purposes, or one of the things you have to do is obviously collect all the relevant data, correct?
Correct all the relative data that's available.
Relevant data
Relevant data that's available.
that is available to you. What's available to you are witness statements, right?
Yes?
You can interview witnesses, nothing stops you.
No?
You can go to building departments
Correct?
to get house records,
Correct?
right? Do a lot of things that aren't just physically at the inspection site,
Correct.
and that's all data gathering.
Correct.
You can agree with me that in your fire investigation, you have to comply with the scientific method, correct?
Correct.
And you described that for us.
Correct.
I'm going to show you what is proposed. Exhibit D. You've seen this before?
Yes.
It's in your NFPA 921 book,
Correct.
and it's what you follow,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
And that's what you used in this case.
Correct.
And this is what you followed in this case, correct?
Correct.
And this would illustrate the steps for the jury, correct?
Correct.
All right, I move for the admission of Exhibit D.
Object is relevance, Your Honor. It's also, I don't see why it's relevant to put this, can we not display it to the jury until the court's admitted it?
I'll admit that, I think it's relevant, I think our foundation's criminal justice.
Obviously, the first
What is your marking on that? What is it?
Exhibit D.
D?
Obviously, you said the first two steps are kind of the same in everything you do, every assignment. Find the origin and cause of the fire.
Correct.
So the real work starts when we're talking about collecting data, correct?
Correct.
When we collect data, you gather all the relevant evidence that you can to try to help you come to a conclusion, right?
Correct.
The next step is you analyze all the data that you've collected, correct?
Correct.
Then once you've analyzed that data, then you develop a hypothesis based on, here's the evidence I have, could it be this?
Correct.
Then you test the hypothesis, right,
Correct.
to disprove the hypothesis, correct?
To prove or disprove, both.
You're telling our jury that it's to prove it or disprove it.
When you're testing hypothesis, yes. To try to disprove it, yes.
If you can't rule it out, can't rule out a hypothesis, then you have to collect more data or develop another hypothesis, right?
Say that again.
If you can't rule out a hypothesis based on the data, then you either have to get more data or develop a new hypothesis. Isn't that what NFPA 921 tells you?
Or, so you've jumped down to testing the hypothesis, correct?
We're on testing hypothesis.
Okay. So you're testing the hypothesis to see not just if it's ruled out, but also if it's ruled in. You're testing it to see if it is, if the hypothesis is ruled out, then it's not a valid hypothesis.
It's an invalid hypothesis.
Correct.
Because you're able to rule it out from the
data.
data.
Correct.
And in this case, if the hypothesis was Linda Stermer was with Todd Stermer and somehow got gasoline on him, you're able to rule that out with the data, reliable data that you had that she was in the basement.
That was never a hypothesis of mine.
I'm asking you, you're an expert witness. If the hypothesis is that Linda Stermer somehow did something with gasoline that caused Todd to be on fire.
Your Honor, I'm going to object. Can we vote, please?
Overruled.
So, you're an expert witness. You're an expert in fire investigation. You develop hypotheses, right?
Correct.
And you measure it against the reliable data, correct?
Correct.
The reliable data you had, as we talked about, was Linda was in the basement at the time she heard Todd yell,
Correct.
assuming he's on fire, correct?
He's yelling and a fire is discovered on him.
Okay. If the hypothesis is Linda was with Todd Stermer and somehow got gasoline on him, that's ruled out by your reliable data that she was in the basement.
That specific hypothesis, correct.
And there's other data that would suggest that Linda didn't have anything to do with any gasoline, isn't there?
I'm not aware of that hypothesis.
Well, how about Linda's clothes tested negative for gasoline?
Well, do you want me to?
Are you aware of that?
I am, and I'm aware of other data
I want
also.
you to I just want you to answer my questions. You're aware that Linda's clothes tested negative for gasoline, correct?
That is true.
You are aware that the Michigan State Police brought a canine in, and the canine did not.
I'm going to object. That's for hearsay, Your Honor. It's not evidence.
He's relied on that collection of data, and including canine evidence. It's in his report.
Now we're talking 703, just like we've been dealing with all over this. That facts are not evidence.
I'll sustain that objection.
You rely on all kinds of data when you're developing your hypotheses, right?
Correct.
One of the pieces of data that you rely on is testing.
Lab testing, correct.
Lab testing. And you also rely on things like Michigan State Police canine experts being called to the scene. True?
Your Honor, I guess we're dancing around the subject again here. I'm going to object as relevance.
Relevance? It goes directly to the issue of
I've
relevance.
already sustained the objection, Mr. Mueller. You can move on.
Were you present when there was a canine?
Objection, Your Honor.
Mr. Mueller, I've sustained the objection.
Okay. Are you aware, well, you were aware of the gray sweatpants, right?
Mr. Stermer's gray sweatpants?
Yes. You collected it.
Yes.
All right. Are you aware that they were 100% polyester?
I was not aware.
Data you could have collected.
It is possible.
Have you, in your past experience, tested the flammability of materials?
I'm going to object. I don't think he's an expert in textiles, Your Honor.
I'm just asking for his experience.
I think it's fair and within the range of his expertise. I'll overrule.
Go ahead.
I have not tested, I do not recall testing flammability of polyester.
You've tested materials.
I have not tested materials.
Are you aware of what polyester is?
It's a synthetic material.
Synthetic material made of plastics.
Plastic polymers, correct.
Okay. And you understand that it doesn't just burn, it melts.
It can burn and melt at the same time.
Okay. So we talked about collecting relevant data. Then we also have, as one of the main aspects of being an expert witness and an expert in general, is you have to keep kind of like an open book policy of document all your investigative techniques, correct?
I don't understand what you're asking.
You told us about the importance of documentation.
Correct.
And the importance of documentation is so others can review your work.
Correct.
And then you can defend your work if people are criticizing it.
That's a portion of documentation, yes.
Portion of documentation is your peers are going to review it, right?
Yes,
Your colleagues.
possibly.
And if you've said there was an intentional fire and you think it's arson and there becomes a criminal case, well, the defendant's expert needs to look at it as well.
I never called it arson, I call it incendiary.
Listen to me carefully. If you call something arson and it results in a...
I'm going to object. We've established that as a legal conclusion, and we should not be talking about that in this case.
I agree. I'll sustain that objection.
Okay. If your opinions result in a criminal charge, the suspect or the defendant has a right to look at your stuff,
Correct?
and it needs to be complete.
They can look at all of my material.
And it needs to be complete and thorough.
They can look at all my material as is.
So they can compare what you're saying you did to what you did by your
Correct.
documents. Corroboration again, right?
Okay? Correct.
So we don't just have to take your word for it, right?
Correct.
And then finally, you have to kind of make a good faith effort, play devil's advocate with yourself, right?
Correct.
How could I be wrong, right?
Correct.
Did I miss something?
Correct.
And you did all that in this case
Yes.
to rule out all the things that you ruled out.
To rule out as many of the things that I could think of
Okay.
and that I had indications of.
Now let's talk about one thing here. This 921 book is the primary training guide for all fire investigations, correct?
It is the main text for training.
It is the main text that you've trained to, fair?
Yes.
It is the text that they test on when you've tested for certifications, right?
Correct.
So you've trained up to this 921, you've tested this 921, and when you've taught young firefighters or fire investigators, you teach out of this book, correct?
That is one of the books.
One of the books. There are others.
There are others.
There are kind of authoritative reference guides.
Yes.
One might be the user's manual for 921.
That may be one.
One might be Kirk's fire investigation. We've seen that.
Yes.
You have that?
I don't know if I have the newest copy, but I have a copy.
You have a copy. John Lentini's book, Scientific Protocols for Fire Investigation. That's a reference guide.
That is a reference guide.
Have you used it?
I can't think if I have.
Do you own it?
I do not own that one.
All these are resources for you to go to if you have questions regarding your field, right?
Correct.
And then, of course, I think the main guide for you would be a code of ethics, right? And how you do your work.
There's a personal code of ethics. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to show you what we've marked as proposed Exhibit L. See if you recognize that. And you can tell us what it is.
This is a quote from the IAAI Code of Ethics that is no longer valid because there's been an update.
Been updated. You believe it to your core, don't you?
What?
You believe this statement to your core, don't you?
The outdated statement?
Yes.
I don't know, Jack, I think he just establishes an outdated statement.
It's what,
Relevance if it's outdated.
because it goes to his code of ethics that he believes in. Whether it's outdated or not, he still believes
Maybe
in
you
the
can
statement.
inquire of him how it's outdated, in what way, what's different.
Do you know why it's different now?
Yes, the IAAI committee met and updated the Code of Ethics in 2020.
Okay.
I have a copy if you'd like.
Do you believe in the principle, I'm just going to ask you that, do you believe in the principle that you should be a truth seeker and not a case maker?
Yes.
You believe that to your core?
I don't use those word core, but yes, I believe it.
Let's go to your D1 hearing at page 66. Let me know when you're there.
Did you say 56? 5?
66.
66.
There?
Yes. D1, Daubert 1, page 66.
66. And we, from line 1 to 9,
Your Honor, I'm going to object because this questioning is based on the outdated statement.
that he said he believes in, Your Honor. I'm asking if he believes in a principle. It's simple.
He's basing it on prior testimony, so I'll allow
Go ahead.
Which lines you want to review again?
1 through 11.
Yes. Yes. On line 9, my answer to that same question is I believe it to my core.
Correct. And what that means is being a truth seeker is You are not here to just get a conviction, right?
I am not here just to get a conviction.
You're here to offer, you're supposed to offer your objective opinion.
I am here,
Argumentative, supposed to offer an opinion. Form of the question.
Argumentative, Mr. Mueller.
Pardon?
It's argumentative.
You are here to offer your objective opinion,
I am.
okay, which means you'd be open to new evidence if you hear it.
I would listen to all relative evidence.
And be open to new evidence and change your mind if it drives you that way, right?
If it was properly produced and researched.
Okay. Now, can we agree that if you don't collect the data, you're violating the scientific method?
Available data.
If you don't collect all available data, you're violating scientific method.
And I'm going to go with that's relevant data. Clearly, there's an infinite amount of data out there, so it needs to be relevant data.
Well, you can't determine what's relevant until you collect the data. Then you decide. That's part of the analyzing, right? This is important, that's important.
But there's a portion of common sense of data collection.
Isn't it true that if you don't collect all the relevant data, you're violating scientific method?
Objection, asked and answered.
It is asked and answered, Mr. Mueller.
I think it was a simple yes or no question.
Your Honor, again,
I think he's answered it already.
Okay. If you don't analyze the data, you violate the scientific method, yes or no? We're on analyzing data, the next step.
It's a little different, but you can ask one more time.
Yes or no?
Correct. You must analyze the data.
If you don't develop hypotheses based on analyzing the data, you violated the scientific method, correct?
You must develop hypotheses or theories.
If you don't, then you violated the scientific method.
Correct.
And then if you don't test those hypotheses, you're violating the scientific method.
Correct.
And if you fail to consider alternate hypotheses, you violate the scientific method.
Reliable alternative hypothesis.
Then you violate the scientific method.
Correct.
If you violate the scientific method, you have an unreliable methodology, don't you?
Correct.
Which means unreliable can't be relied upon, correct?
Correct.
To rely, to have confidence in, to trust, right?
Correct.
And if you don't have a reliable methodology, then you don't have a reliable opinion, do you?
I think this has been asked and answered, Your Honor.
Haven't even asked it.
Yeah, it is asked and answered. I'll have you move on.
I've not asked that question ever.
Okay, one more time.
Thank you.
One more.
If you don't have a reliable methodology, you don't have a reliable opinion, do you?
Correct.
You've heard of the phrase garbage in equals garbage out?
I have heard that.
All right. Let's go to your cause opinion. Are you comfortable that you've explained the cause of the fire to this jury?
Yes.
You wouldn't change it, would you?
No.
You know, and as I remember from my notes, the cause of the fire was the ignition source was an open flame,
Correct?
and then the first fuel ignited was gasoline.
Gasoline vapors.
Okay. And that's the cause of the fire,
Correct.
which is why you then classified it as intentional,
Incendiary, yes.
incendiary. Give me a second, Your Honor. Okay, give me 1 second. Mortimer, we're back. Let's go to NFPA 921. NFPA 921 speaks to cause, doesn't it? The causal factors.
Yes.
I'm curious what this is going to be before the jury sees this, because I'm not sure what we're specifically looking for.
I'm going to show you, and this is not an exhibit, Your Honor, it's for impeachment and learning treatise.
Well, then he can impeach him with it, but it can't be displayed to the jury. It's not an
I
exhibit.
can read it or show it to the jury. It just doesn't go back to the jury room as an exhibit.
Well, I'll allow it for demonstrative,
Thank you.
for cross, but it won't go back to the jury.
Right. Sir, you recognize those causal factors?
Yes.
NFPA 921, the premier guide for your training, lists what has to be found and determined for the cause, correct?
Correct.
The ignition source, the first fuel ignited, everybody read that? And the circumstances that brought 1 and 2 together.
Correct.
Unless you have all 3, you don't have a cause of a fire, correct?
Correct.
Which means unless you have all 3, you don't have the why. Isn't that true?
The why of the cause of the fire?
Yes, that is the why.
Correct.
Okay. Let's go to 19.4.4.1. I'm happy to give you the book if you have it.
I do. Yes, 19.4.4.1.
Let me know when you're there.
Yes.
It says simply identifying a fuel or an ignition source by itself does not and cannot describe how a fire occurred. Did I read that correctly?
Yes, that's an excerpt from that section.
That's what that says, right?
Correct?
So, what it's saying is, if we have 1 and 2 but not 3, we don't have the cause of a fire, correct?
Correct.
You've given 1 and 2 to the jury. You're comfortable with that conclusion. You didn't give 3 to the jury. You don't know the circumstances that brought that open flame to the gasoline in this 20 by 20 living room, do you?
I don't, but there's an exception in 921 that allows for that.
You don't have all 3 factors for the cause of a fire. Fair?
I do have all 3 factors.
You have the circumstances. You haven't given the jury the circumstances that brought the open flame and the gasoline together. The how. True?
That has not been discussed with the jury.
Okay. That was never discussed in your report, correct?
My report from 2007, it was
Yes,
not.
the official Michigan State Police fire report of this case.
The language has changed since 2007 with these specific monikers?
Oh, you updated your report?
No, I did not.
Okay, in your report, you never listed even an open flame. We can go to your report.
I did not list an open flame.
So you did not list gasoline, or strike that. You did not list first fuel being gasoline.
I did not.
And you certainly didn't list in your official report the circumstances that brought those 2 together. Fair?
I did not.
Then you've testified on several occasions, right? In this case.
Correct.
Testified in 09, didn't you?
09, that would have been the first trial? Correct.
Your Honor, can we approach? You testified, excuse me, in a prior hearing in 2009, and you laid out what you said was the cause of the fire, right?
Yes.
And you didn't mention one time an ignition source being open flame.
I can't remember what my testimony was on that.
Well, let's look at what's called PE. PE in your binder,
I've got multiple. This binder?
transcript binder.
See one that says PE on it.
The 09, correct?
Called PE, I think.
It doesn't say PE.
Oh, sorry.
But it says 09. All right.
Direct your attention to page 49.
Yes.
You listed as the cause of the fire, time of day, right?
Time? Yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Time of day, condition of the known people in the house, which means basically able-bodied people.
Correct.
And you said the fire started very rapidly, larger and more rapidly than an accident fire could have started.
Correct.
And then you tied it in with gasoline on Mr. Stermer's sweatpants, right?
Correct.
Which then caused you to say it's an intentional fire.
Correct.
All right. So when you testified that didn't lay out the circumstances that brought anything together, correct?
Correct. But there's still an
And then-
exception.
You can clear that up. You did not mention any of the circumstances, fair?
Correct.
Okay. Then you testified in 2010 and went through the same thing and never mentioned an ignition source of open flame, correct?
Correct.
Never mentioned.
I don't know. I don't recall my testimony verbatim from 2010.
Okay. Do you recall that the first time when I asked you, the first time you testified to an open flame and gasoline as an ignition, first fuel ignited, was in our hearing in 2021?
I recall that testimony.
Okay.
That being discussed in the testimony, I don't recall if that was the first time that was mentioned.
In fact, to this date, in 18 years, you've never set forth in a report or testimony the circumstances that brought forth your open flame gasoline, correct?
I think I just did it today in testimony.
Didn't you just tell us you did 1 and 2, but not 3?
No, that I haven't explained. There's an exception for the 3 with the 1 and 2 being brought together.
You did not, in any direct testimony, set forth the circumstances that brought 1 and 2 together.
Objection has been answered.
He keeps disputing that he did.
Because you won't let him answer the question, Your Honor.
It's asked and answered.
Thank you. Now, in terms of, you certainly know the difference as to what a causal factor is in terms of an ignition source, correct?
Causal factor? Yes.
Yes, that's ignition source and first fuel.
Correct.
And you've been under oath saying that the time of day was a causal factor, correct?
I've never used the word causal factor.
It was a cause of the fire.
No, it was a circumstance of the fire.
Is there anywhere in NFPA 921 that says time of day is a cause of the fire?
No.
There's no reference manual anywhere that you've been trained on that says time of day is a cause of the fire.
No.
Am I right?
Correct.
There's no authority that you've ever heard of that says time of day is a cause of the fire.
Correct.
Accidental fires happen all the time in the daytime, right?
Correct.
Then the next thing you had, and we can talk about that PE again at page 49, was two able-bodied people.
Correct.
Is there anything in NFPA 921, this principal guide, if there is, I'd like you to cite it for our jury and any peers who are watching, anything that says the condition of people are a cause of the fire?
It does not.
No authoritative guide, no somebody look and respect has ever told you that, correct?
Correct.
You've never taught that, correct?
Correct.
You've never been tested where that was an answer as a cause of a fire. Two able-bodied people.
No.
Am I right?
Correct.
Able-bodied people die in fires all the time, unfortunately.
Correct.
Just like disabled people, like you told us, right?
Correct.
You didn't mention that you've investigated many fires involving able-bodied people who were seriously injured or died. Fair?
That is correct.
And then, of course, another factor you said in that preliminary hearing was the speed of the fire, correct?
Correct.
Now, you know, sir, from all your training and expertise, that how fast the fire progresses is based on a lot of different factors, right?
Correct.
One of the factors is the construction of the house,
That is one.
because that depends on the fuel loads, right? That
More than just fuel loads. Depends on fuel loads, container size, room size, configuration.
fire will spread faster if you have more ventilation. It takes oxygen to feed a fire.
Correct.
So it's not simply a fire was fast and therefore it had to be an accelerant. Fair?
That is fair.
And certainly you can't rely on eyewitness testimony, the subjective testimony of who was burning fast.
Not by itself, no. You were aware that when some of the first witnesses showed up, that they saw a fire coming through the roof on the north side of, not the north side of the house, on the back side of the house? The west side, yes.
West side? Well, we don't have it here, right?
Correct.
By where the bay windows were?
It was, yeah, there were some statements of through the roof in the center of the house.
With the tip, don't put your exhibits by a furnace.
Your Honor, can I ask that we take some of these demonstrative exhibits down if they're not going to be used anymore?
Are you done with that one? It's on the screen? Is this something new coming out?
No, this is, I can see what this is. This is fine.
Mr. Mueller, if you could give
I'm
us
gonna-
the New York skyline, please.
I'll just go black, how about that? Early witnesses said that the fire was coming out of the roof on the backside and toward the middle,
Correct.
which one of the things you relied on,
Correct?
right? And the fireplace would have been here and toward the center,
Correct.
right?
Just, so it says FP, right, fireplace?
Correct.
You would have to collect data in terms of maybe how the house was constructed to have a better idea of analyzing that data and developing a hypothesis that why the fire, you say, was so fast.
Data was collected through observations.
Okay. There was other available data, correct?
There may have been.
And you had access to that available data, like building records, correct?
I assume I would have availability to building records. I did not look at any.
You chose not to.
I did not look at any.
You could have talked to Linda Stermer.
I could have.
You chose not to.
I did not.
That would have been obviously a very valuable source of data in terms of how the fire was, or the house was constructed.
Your
Fair?
Honor, can we approach really quickly because I want to be very mindful of what issue we're talking about here?
Sir, were you, excuse me, were you aware that the entire living room floor was nothing but OSB subflooring?
I became aware. I can't tell you when.
Okay. Not as of January 12 when you issued your report, correct?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Let's get a timeline. January 7, the fire starts, or fire happens, right?
Correct?
January 7, you're on the scene.
Correct?
Take a couple pictures, and pictures of the body you showed, and also pictures of the house.
Correct?
You took 46 pictures. Would that be correct?
I don't know how many I took.
If I tell you you took 46 that night,
That sounds about right.
and then you took a total of 138, so you took from 47 to 138 the next day.
I took several pictures the next day.
Okay. And then, that was the 8th, and then the 12th, you learned the MSP results on the gasoline on the sweatpants.
That's
Yes?
correct.
And then you issued your report shortly after that.
Correct.
Okay. And the key, obviously, was the gasoline on sweatpants.
That was an important piece of data.
You know, that was the thing that lynched it for you, didn't it?
That was an important piece of data.
You know what a keystone is? Ever seen a keystone in an arch?
I'm aware Keystone architecturally, yes.
Yes, architecturally, and the keystone is the piece at the top, the single
Correct.
piece that holds the arch together.
Correct?
And then if it's removed, the whole arch falls.
Correct?
That was the keystone, wasn't it? For your opinion,
There's an
gasoline.
argumentative.
I'll allow it for cross.
Thank you.
I would never use the word keystone. It was an important piece of data.
Let's get back to the construction of the house. You didn't know the floor was nothing but OSB with some rugs on it, right?
I did not.
You didn't know there was exposed 2x4s around the framing, especially around the whole bay window area.
At the time of the investigation, I did not.
You didn't know there was a lot of other exposed wood.
Your Honor, can we take the...
Oh, sorry. Didn't even know I was doing it. Good, thank you. You didn't know there was a lot of exposed wood, uncovered, not drywalled, in that first floor, correct?
I did not.
And that certainly would add to the ability of a fire to spread, correct?
It would.
Because as you know, if it's a lot of drywall doesn't burn, right?
Correct.
Were you aware, sir, as you were trying to rule out these hypotheses, that there was no final electrical inspection?
I was not aware.
Were you aware that there was no final mechanical inspection?
I was not.
Were you aware that the house didn't even have a certificate of final occupancy?
I did not.
That'd be important data to know, right? In terms of evaluating electrical sources, mechanical, that kind of thing.
I did not have those information.
Pardon?
I did not have that information.
Now, you said you ruled out electrical as being a possible cause of the fire, right?
Correct.
Electrical fires happen all the time in this country, don't they?
Correct.
And they can happen behind the walls, right?
Yes.
And all of a sudden you have a sudden fire you didn't even know, right?
They happen in the walls.
Okay. You do not have expertise in electrical house wiring, do you?
I'm not a licensed electrician.
You are not an expert in the electrical wiring of a house, are you?
I am not.
I think it's been asked and answered, Your Honor.
You didn't?
It's a little different, but I'll allow it.
Go ahead.
I'm not.
Okay. And on September or January 8th, you didn't hire somebody to help you with the electrical examination, did you?
Your Honor, we approach
You ever heard of the phrase, know what you don't know?
Yes.
Smart to know what you don't know and stay in your lane. You ever heard of that phrase?
Correct. Yes, I've heard it.
Now, you don't have evidence, physical evidence of any ignition source, do you?
Physical evidence? No, there's no physical evidence of an ignition source.
Okay.
Well,
And you-
there is physical evidence of a potential ignition source. That's the fireplace
And candles,
and candles.
which you would have to rule out according to the scientific method
Correct.
by collecting data.
Correct.
You didn't collect data about the candles in your inspection, did you?
I did. The data for the candles were statements about the candles,
That they were
that they existed.
okay. They were open flames,
Correct.
and one open flame was candles, right?
Correct.
One open flame with a fuel lamp, correct?
I don't know.
You don't remember that?
I don't know the fuel lamp.
Okay. And one open flame was a fireplace.
Correct.
You don't know which of those open flames were involved in this fire, do you?
I don't know of which open flame is involved in the ignition,
Or any of them?
or any of them.
Okay. And you certainly don't know, well, let's talk about the gasoline on the pants. The gasoline on the sweatpants that tested positive, you said was a very, very important part of your conclusion.
I don't think I used that many varies. I think I just said important.
Okay.
Or,
Very important? Yes?
yes.
Okay. In fact, sir, you have no opinion on how long the gasoline had been on his sweatpants. Is that true?
That is correct.
Because you don't know where he was when he got gasoline on.
Correct.
You don't know when it happened in terms of what day.
I do not know when the gasoline got on the pants.
You don't know how it got there.
I do not know how the gasoline got on his pants.
You don't know how much gasoline was on his pants?
I do not know the exact amount of black gasoline that went on his pants.
And you have no opinion as to how long it was on his pants, correct?
I have no opinion how long it was on his pants.
Therefore, you cannot rule out the logical possibility that it has nothing to do with this fire.
No.
Am I right?
No, you're not.
All right, let's back out. If you don't know how long the gasoline were on the pants, you don't know if he had gotten it on the pants a week before.
I know that the gasoline was on the pants.
100%.
At that time, I do not know when the gasoline got on his pants.
We don't know the last time the sweatpants were washed.
I'm sorry?
We don't know the last time the sweatpants were washed.
We do not.
But what you're doing is extrapolating, just saying he had gasoline on sweatpants, therefore gasoline must have been in the living room.
Because he was in the living room
Okay.
and near the area of origin.
Do you have any explanation for why his sweatpants didn't catch fire if they had gasoline on them?
They may have been covered, like a blanket or something may have been over them. They may have been something pushed together so there's not oxygen. Do I know exactly why? No, I don't.
Okay, when you're saying they may have, you're speculating.
I'm offering a speculative opinion.
Okay. And as an expert witness, do you think offering a speculative opinion is appropriate?
It is an informative statement. I do not know. Go ahead.
Would you agree that experts should not speculate or guess?
Opinions should come from a body of knowledge.
A body of scientific knowledge based on the scientific method, right?
Body of knowledge.
And as we agreed, garbage in equals garbage out, right?
Correct.
So if you're offering speculation as an opinion, what you're doing is misleading the jury, aren't you?
Sustain.
If you're offering speculation as an opinion, you're violating that.
It's
Excuse
asked
me,
and
I-
answered. It's asked and answered.
I didn't, it's a different question.
I think it's asked and answered.
Let's talk about that red gas can in the front yard. Oh, one thing, let's go back. One thing that, in relying on Linda Stermer's statement, that she was in the basement, she came upstairs, all of a sudden she saw the fire, right?
Correct.
Then she ran out of the house, right?
Correct.
And all the information you had that she was running around hysterical, correct?
Objection, that's passed on to evidence, needs to testify to that, Your Honor.
Did you learn that from your,
You know, allow it with the foundation.
thank you. Did you read Mr. Shinsky's statement of Linda Stermer?
Yes.
Okay, did you read anything about what the witnesses said?
Correct. Yes, I did.
And they were describing her as hysterical, right?
There were some descriptions of that. Yes.
Okay. So, given that information, you can't rule out the possibility that Linda Stermer was surprised by the fire when she saw it.
Objection, cause for speculation.
Fair? Based on the evidence he has.
Well, Your Honor, he's asking you to rule out Linda Stermer's surprise. How is he supposed to know how she'll react if he wasn't there?
I agree. It's cause for speculation. I'll sustain.
Okay. Let's talk about that red gas can that you picked up in the front yard. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay. You actually saw it the night before, didn't you?
I photographed, it was in a photograph the night before. I do not have an individual recollection if I took specific notice of it on the 7th.
If you thought it was important, you would have picked it up that night.
I don't know.
Well, you certainly know that in a potential crime scene, evidence can disappear, right?
Yes.
And as you testified earlier, you thought this might be a crime scene when you saw blood on the front bumper of the car, correct?
Correct.
That's why you took pictures, correct?
Correct.
And then, after that, you saw the gas can, but you didn't even pick it up.
I don't know if I saw the gas can or took notice of the gas can the evening of the 7th.
The next day, you picked it up, correct?
Correct.
Detective Rout, is she the one who pointed it out to you? Or she took a picture of it too?
I don't know if Detective Rout pointed it out to me or not.
Certainly possible that you wouldn't have even noticed it or thought of it important on the 8th.
I don't know what that question is.
You don't know how the gas can got there, correct?
I do not.
You don't know where the gas can was before it got there.
Correct.
You don't know who put it there.
Correct.
In fact, if I look at your photograph 116 in your package from B, that's the gas can in the front yard, the picture you took, correct? Yellow stickers in the bottom right.
Yeah, B, what?
116.
116. There is no 116 in here.
It would be then in your, well, the picture here, do you remember taking that picture?
I do remember the picture.
Remember looking at that picture in direct exam?
Yes,
Okay, it shows the gas can.
it does.
Do you recall taking a picture, a more close-up picture?
Yes.
And if we see this picture, close up. See the gas can, it's all dirty and muddy,
I do.
and the spout is all muddy,
Correct.
and the rest of the spout is broken. The rest of the spout is to the left.
Correct.
As you sit here, sir, you have no idea if that gas can, 1 gallon gas can, has any connection to this fire, do you?
I do not.
Because to suggest that would be pure speculation on your part, correct?
Correct.
And would be intellectually dishonest if you suggested it, correct?
Correct.
In fact, if anybody suggested that a gas can had anything to do with this case, that would be misleading the jury, wouldn't it?
Sustain that objection, and it calls for speculation.
Give me 1 second here, Your Honor. I might be wrapping up. Oh. In order to arrive at your opinion that gasoline on the sweatpants means that it was there at the time of the fire, you're with me?
Correct.
You'd have to rule out that any time period between the time of the fire and when you got there 3 hours later, gasoline could have transferred then, right?
There is no evidence of that.
Okay, let's work through that real quick. Todd Stermer was found outside the house by neighbors, right?
Correct.
Neighbors, Matheny in particular, throws clothes on him, correct?
At some point, yes.
You finally learned later that it was Mr. Matheny's coat that had the gasoline, that tested positive for gasoline too, correct?
Later, I did learn that that was Mr. Matheny's coat that was sent to the lab.
You thought it was Todd Stermer's coat, but somebody mislabeled it, fair?
Somebody mislabeled it. I don't know if it was me or somebody mislabeled it.
Okay. So, you'd have to rule out the fact that maybe there was transfer of the gas from Matheny's coat to the sweatpants.
There was no indications of.
You would have to rule that out. That's a plausible theory.
Correct.
And that's why you do the whole scientific method.
Correct.
Then they transferred him in this dinghy boat called the John boat. Somebody describe it.
Yes.
And they transferred him to where he was finally found, and workers worked on him, right?
Correct.
You would have to rule out that plausible scenario that maybe there was gasoline in that boat.
That was not a very plausible theory, but yes.
Okay. Even though you may not believe it, you still, as a scientific person, have to rule that out through the scientific method. True?
Correct.
Okay. So, and certainly, you know what expectation and confirmation bias is, right?
Yes.
NFPA cautions against that, correct?
Correct.
We talked about that, those as being a big no-no, right?
Have we
Yes.
previously? Is that
In-
what
in
you're
June?
saying? Yes.
Big no-no, expectation bias is having an idea of what you think happened and then disregarding or ignoring evidence that doesn't fit, right?
Correct. It's not looking at all the data.
Confirmation bias is the flip side of the coin. Once you've arrived at a decision or an opinion, you ignore contradictory data, right?
Correct.
Both violate the scientific method, don't they?
Correct.
Because if you do receive new evidence, you have to then reevaluate. True?
Correct.
That's the proper way to do it.
Correct.
So, we have had testimony now that, and you smelled gasoline 3 hours later on Todd Stermer, right?
Correct.
Which led you to take the sweatpants.
Yes.
We've had testimony from 3 witnesses, Mike McCamey, Connie Calhoun.
I'm going to be objecting, Your Honor. I don't think he's aware of this testimony. He wasn't present in court to hear the testimony.
It's still setting up a question, Your Honor.
Maybe just do it more as a hypothetical.
Hypothetically, if 3 witnesses who were there, the first 3 people on scene, said they didn't smell gasoline on Todd Stermer, you'd have to consider that, correct?
I wouldn't know what other people smelled or what they detected.
Have you told me in the past that you can't really consider that because sometimes people's memory are crazy when it's a stressful situation?
Oh, I never said the word crazy.
Not crazy. This was a chaotic situation, right?
Yes.
And when people are in chaotic situations, you've said that their memories aren't so good.
I don't recall saying that.
No. Have you been trained as a Michigan State police detective or trooper detective on how to handle stressful situations?
I've had a lot of training. I don't know if anything specific on stressful situations.
Well, you do shoot training, don't you? Or didn't you?
I did.
So you can handle, if there's a shootout, handle the stressful situation, right?
Well, that's 2 different things when you're asking about handling stressful situations versus firearms training. That's two different things.
Okay. Have you had training, sir, to teach you how to deal with shootouts?
Objection has an answer, Your Honor.
Relevance?
Dances around the
Relevance.
question. Relevance?
It's
It
irrelevant.
goes to how a trained professional might act in a chaotic situation versus a lay person.
Overrule it, I don't find it relevant.
You know, overrule the
I'm sorry,
objection.
sustain the objection.
Okay. Even though you didn't necessarily believe that the boat could have transferred gasoline, there could have been gasoline in the boat that transferred to a sweat. You remember that?
Yes.
You still have to. You just told us you still have to analyze that as a plausible.
Your Honor, this can ask an answer.
I don't remember this question,
All right.
so I'll allow it.
You don't have to, or you still have to analyze it via the scientific method, correct?
Consider the data.
Right. And which means you got to collect data
Collect data.
about the boat,
Correct.
so you can analyze it,
Correct.
so you can develop a hypothesis,
Correct.
so you can test.
Testing the hypothesis and the analyzation of the data collected.
Okay. Did you take a rag and wipe anything on the boat?
I did not.
Okay, that would be data, right?
That would be a form of data.
Did you get any witness statement from Linda Stermer or her children about anything about gasoline in the boat?
I have seen statements from her children.
I'm talking about, you took a statement, yeah, you heard a statement from Linda Stermer, you read it.
Correct.
I'm talking about before January 12th, when you wrote your report.
I don't know what information was relayed to me by other detectives about, I don't know, I forget the question, about comments from the family? Is that what the question was?
About the boat, specifically about the boat.
I didn't, the only information I was told is the boat was used to transport Todd from near the house to his final location.
Okay. And you did not collect any data from any individuals about whether there was gasoline in the boat, correct?
Objection, yes, and answer.
He said he mentioned Linda Stermer. I'm just asking him, anybody else?
Ask about the boys again. I can't remember. I think you asked about the boys as well?
He did.
Okay. You can ask that again, because I can't recall his answer.
Sir, you did not collect any data regarding the possibility of gasoline in the boat, correct?
Objection, yes, and answer, Your Honor.
I asked about various
Sounds
sources.
like
I'm
a
wrapping
good
it up right
winding
now.
up question,
I'm
Mr.
wrapping
Miller,
it
so
up.
assuming it's a wind-up question, I'll allow it.
Thank you. True?
I did not.
Okay. Which means you can't analyze it, correct?
Your
You
Honor, object.
can't.
Yes, and answer.
This is, it's really cumulative at this point, Mr. Mueller, so
Yes.
either move on or sit down.
If you didn't collect the evidence, you violated the scientific method with respect to that hypothesis, didn't you?
I've collected data from statements of people about the boat,
Before January 12th.
not before January 12th.
Okay, and it's not in your report,
This is not in my report.
and it's never been in part of testimony, have it?
I don't recall if it's part of testimony.
And you didn't tell us about it this morning, did you?
No.
Okay. Give me 1 second to wrap up.
That is quite the huddle. I don't think I've ever seen attorneys do that to that extreme.
So Leroy, let me just kind of wrap up and summarize what we talked about. You didn't take photographs of your excavation, right?
Objection, Your Honor. These have all been asked
I'm
and
just
answered. You don't
wrapping it up.
Asked and answered.
Do you believe, based on everything you did, that you properly documented your investigation?
Yes.
Do you believe that everything you did, you complied with all of the mandates of the scientific method?
Yes.
And NFPA 921, everything they say to do and don't do?
Yes.
No more questions, Your Honor. Give me a second for my housekeeping.
And then, counsel, you moved to admit just the one, the rest were demonstrative, correct?
I move to
I
admit
think the scientific method one,
that scientific method is D,
that was D.
and A and B, his photographs.
Okay, so we got the photograph. We thought we heard an L.
L was previously admitted.
Oh, okay.
Let me,
Is that your understanding, Mr. Blair? So
Yeah, that
the-
sounds about right,
just
is
the-
what we've gone through, Your Honor.
The scientific method one will admit, the others are demonstrative, other than the photos that were already admitted. Okay. Okay, thank you. So we'll take our lunch break, jury, and I'll have you come back at 1:15 to the jury room. Please, no media, no discussions with anyone.